From the savannah to the Midland and the Atlantic, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. Ambazonia rise.
Dear Ambazonians on the home front and diaspora.
Dear Ambazonia freedom fighters in the home front and in the diaspora.
The Ethics Commission of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is coming out to alert you that it is becoming more and more evident that the former British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonians, will soon emerge as the newest nation in the world.
We are calling on all of us to start preparing to receive Ambazonia as parents prepare to receive their firstborn child. Malcolm X said, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are already very educated, talented, and very rich in natural resources. Do all this guarantee a safe and prosperous Ambazonia? The answer is an emphatic no. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace in society.
Ambazonians, it is time to start planning to restore our cultural and social values that characterize us as a people of good repute. Before our Republic to Cameroon invasion, we were respectful of each other, of the law, and of our culture. We earned our living through honest hard work, making clean money for ourselves.
Our values helped us to maximize the benefits of our natural resources as well as our human resources. Southern Cameroons were serene and clean, simply beautiful in spirit and in the physical. We all long for such a place to call home, and we can make it happen by God's grace.
Our local government areas and counties, are you preparing? Do you have an ethics commission in your local government areas, counties to serve as a moral compass for you? Do you have a copy of the Ambazonia Ethics Code and the Constitution?
All arms of government, do you have an ethics agency? Departments of DSS, HSS, Communications and IT, Education, DHACM, DFA and DEINR. Do you have ethics agency to serve as a moral compass for your departments?
Ambazonians, you need to know your rights by reading the Ethics Code and the Constitution.
Shame unethical behavior and reward good behavior in your communities. Hold leaders accountable. Be the watchdog of your communities and governments. See something, say something.
The church, you are the main research center of moral principles with the responsibility of moralizing the society. How effective are you outside the church building?
Maya Angelou said, when you know better, then you do better. Ambazonians, watch Ethics for an emerging Ambazonia every Friday at 4 p.m. Amba time.
Exclusively on ABC Amba TV. Stay tuned.
Everybody else in the area, dance in the air. Let's go there. All the champions dance in the air. Everybody dance in the air. Dance in the air. We are champions. We are champions. We are champions. We are champions. Champions in all. 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 Over and over again we see the touch of your greatness, Lord, in us. Whoa. Come join me, sing now. Let's celebrate together. Come join me, praise now. Let's jubilate together. All the champions dance in the air. Everybody dance in the air. Dance in the air. Let's go there. All the champions dance in the air. Everybody dance in the air.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to our program, Ethics for an Emerging Ambazonia. It is our pleasure to welcome all of you at home front in the diaspora for this our edition, which is the third edition on this particular topic, and it will be rounded up today to give chance for other topics of importance to be addressed by the Ethics Commission while at war, preparing ourselves to get into our land with already an informed mind. And so today I say greetings to every one of you out there, and I have with me in the studios seasoned men and women of Ambazonia that are laying a precedence to what is going to be happening in our country. These are not just educated men, these are experienced men and women. And for you to be an Ambazonia, to hear from such people, you are privileged. And so without wasting any time, I would like to just go ahead and bring into the studios.
I'm doing a program. I'm on air right now. So yeah.
Please, well, we will like to inform our guest. Once you appear on board, please drop your calls. Don't answer any call because you are already in the studios. Thank you very much. If you can just shut down your phones, that will be good for us. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Again, we are right here in the house, and it is usually my what do I call it? Yeah, I in the program that I host, I look at all the people that come in as adults, and they are of age, and they can proudly, but with all humility, introduce themselves to the people of Ambazonia. I know that the Ambazonian people know you, but would like you to just say a word of greetings to the Ambazonian people so they can know who is in the studios with us as we go into face this very topic of today. All right, I will start with Barrister with a cap on the head. Then after that, we'll go to Ma. And then we'll cross over to the British barrister with a coat. All right. The microphone is yours, Barrister.
Thank you, Commander, for introducing me, especially with my cap on the head. You see, my cap has a lot of significance. This
I
in
know.
green, that represents nature, represents the landscape of our territory. It also means
Great.
that with this cap on the head, I have something to do with tradition. And land is all about tradition. How do we handle our lands? How do we deal with them for today, yesterday, and tomorrow? And so, thank you. I will give my honest contribution. For my humble self privately, not concerned with this program, I'm a lawyer, and this part of this program deals with land grafting in Fako. I also live in Fako. I live in Boya, so I can give a lot of input from my personal perspective. Thank you once more for having me.
We've just heard that you have a cap on the head that is green and the nature is green. We have not heard your name.
Well, I'm called Barrister Timothy Bosea.
Okay,
I think
Barrister
you already
Timothy
know that name.
Bethea.
Yes.
All right, thank you
Yes,
very much,
when I was
Barrister.
there, I had my law firm, which was called Benucham. That is Everything Chambers.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, over to you, our only mama in the house.
Thank you very much, Pastor Commando, for having me on this program. I want to greet all Amazonians. I want to greet especially our ARFs who are putting their lives on the line for us. My name is, back home I will be called Iya Emma because I am from Fako, and or Ma Emma, as I'm well known by Amazonians. My name is Emma Endele, and I'm a retired journalist. I worked with Radio Boya. It wasn't part of CRTV at the time. I worked with Radio Cameroon Boya station, and I left for Nigeria, where I worked with Nigerian Television Authority in Port Harcourt. Right now, I am the Director General of ABC TV, and as you see on my shoulder, I have our history, a piece of our history. That's our Amazonian cloth. And it has a bit of our history because it has our forefathers, those who were there when our independence was negotiated by the United Nations. So this wrapper is now available for Amazonians and all good people who sympathize with our cause. So for now, I am very happy to be part of the ethics this program. I live in Fako. I have family there. I have a house there because that's where my father's house is. So the land grabbing topic is to me a very personal thing because it affects me and my people. And I know that this goes on all over Amazonia. It's not only Fako, but for today we are talking about Fako. Thank you, Pastor Commando.
You're welcome. Over to our always barrister.
Thank you, Pastor Commando, for inviting me on the ethics program. My name is Barrister Frujon, so I'm sure that a lot of our people in the home front and in the diaspora, they know me already. I have been a practicing attorney in Douala for the last 40 years. I'm no longer, I'm here now living in exile, but I'm a practicing attorney, and I'm also the lawyer of the house. When I call the house, I mean the interim government. So
Thank,
this topic is so important because, as Mindele says, we are going to talk about Fako today, but Ambazonians should know that land grabbing is all over, including where I come from, Bamenda. Bamenda station is now infested by land grabbing. Thank you.
thank you very much, gentlemen and lady of the panel. I will go ahead and then give us some introduction, and then we will hand over the microphone to our panelists who will be talking to us on different aspects of land grabbing. This year, Ethics for an Emerging Ambazonia will be coming on every other Friday, spotlighting on ethical issues plaguing Ambazonia at home and abroad. And of course, see something, say something. The more Ambazonians engage in discussions on ethical issues now, the better. Our chances for a short transition period post recognition will be powerful. Applied knowledge is power. We are acquiring knowledge during this wartime and to use it judiciously as we get back to our hometown. We have had 2 episodes on land grabbing, and so today is the last episode on this particular topic of land grabbing. Very fortunate enough, we have our 2 lawyers here who have been talking so much on the land grabbing. Would like to have a brief recap of these 2 episodes that have passed for a few minutes, maybe 3 minutes, from Barrister Timothy and Barrister Fru. They will give us a very brief recap of the last shows or the last episodes of this land grabbing before we enter into the topic of today. Please don't get into the topic of today. Just give us the summary of what happened, of what we said in the last 2. So, Barrister Tim, you go ahead and then say a little that you could, and then after that, Barrister Tim will come up. Over to you, Barrister Tim. And after that, Barrister Fru will come up. Sorry. Go ahead, Barrister Tim. Microphone is yours. A recap.
The last 2 episodes, we have intended to deal with land. How important is land to us? How was it yesterday? How is it today? And how will it be tomorrow? So we've tried to handle that. And we've tried to look at how land is used, how land has become a problem, and why. And so that's what we've been looking at. The topic of today is an offshoot of what the bigger problem is, which is the management of land. And so I'm looking at that for the past 2 sessions. In summary, that's what it is.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll just go ahead, Barrister Fru.
Yes, sir. I have attended only one session, and I thought that during that session, we took a look at how the La Republic of Cameroon has structured the land ownership acquisition. And I did talk about the government private lands and the national lands. That's the major two components of how La Republic manages lands in La Republic, including in Ambazonia. And we did talk about how CDC has given back land to the natives that they no longer use, and what has happened to those lands. I think that is what we discussed in the issue that on the program that I was present. So it will be exciting for me today to participate in the final episode of this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barrister. That was very concisive and a brief summary, straight to the point. Okay, in today's program, would like Barrister Tim to go ahead and answer this particular and talk to the Ambazonian people in this particular aspect. How can the indigenes fight back. What is the status of the Bakweri land claims pioneered by the late Pa Joel Litumbe? So we'll hand this over to Barrister Tim to go ahead and give us his views and rundown. Over to you, Barrister Tim.
Yes, I will do that. But before I get there, let me just give this lesson for all of us to understand. Land is a natural resource of a country. Many of us have heard about natural resources, gold, oil, tin, minerals. They are not found everywhere. But land happens to be a natural resource which is found everywhere. It touches everyone's life. Everybody in Amazonia, in Nigeria, in Ghana, wherever, they are settling on land. And this land can be properly or poorly used. And the land, when you talk about it, you refer to those people who live there. These are called the indigenes. They are the first line of defense of the land, which is a national treasure. But the indigenes defend it. And so that will take us to the Bakweri land issue. The Bakweri land issue became a national issue first, then an international issue down the years till today. How and why? We all know that when the white man, in particular the Germans, when they arrived Cameroon after 1884, they landed in Victoria because they came by boat. The first parcel of land they landed there was in Fako, was in Victoria. Victoria is part of Fako. It is below the Boya Mountains, Fako Mountain as you call it. And the Germans were out there to explore the area. They were not looking for gold now. The Germans were not looking for petrol that we have today. They were looking for farming lands to replenish their industries back home. And so the first bulk of arrivals were essentially farmers. And they were lucky to arrive there because the land below the Fako Mountain was so fertile. You know, Boya Mountain is volcanic, and volcanic soil is rich. It is fertile. And so they started to farm there. They got farms to farm there. They didn't buy the lands. They expropriated the lands from the natives. Those are the indigenes. Everybody, to the best of his ability, took out a portion of what he wanted to farm on. And what were they farming? They were farming essentially bananas and sometime later rubber trees. And so they got these pieces of land. They didn't buy them, they got them, they expropriated them, forcibly took them from the natives. Maybe they gave some salt, some wine, something, some sugar, which was new to the people, to the indigenes, but they didn't buy it. And so they took it, in order to show their ownership of this land, they took the pieces of land, each of them took their piece of land. Back home, we didn't have a government in Boya. They took it to Germany, and everybody registered his or her own portion of the land that he had claimed from the Bakweri people as a private farm. They registered it in the German land register, which is called the Grundbuch in German, but it's called the land register. Everybody registered his own portion there. Unfortunately, the German occupation was short-lived because the First and Second World War came in 1914 and then 1945. And the Germans had to leave, and they left. What was to become of these lands which they have taken away from the people? When they left finally in 1946, the Bakwerians started, just to correct it, the Bakweri land claim was not started by Njoli Tume. Now, he pioneered it down the road. The Bakweri people started in 1946 to petition. They wanted their land back. They wanted their lands back, or to be compensated for the land that the Germans had forcibly taken from them. That was their claim. It was called the BLC. They created what we call the BLC, the Bakweri Land Committee, to fight back, to recover back their land, this part of their natural resources. And so that is when it started, 1946. But it didn't last long because their complaint didn't go unnoticed. It was noticed. Came 1948, after we had transitioned from the German colony to a UN trust territory under the UK. The UK administration thought, what do we do with these lands? They were officially private lands of the Germans, officially private property of the natives of Fako, but then they are gone. So what do we do with these lands that were taken forcefully? Luckily, they came out with an idea. Let us create the CDC, which is originally called the Commonwealth Development Association. That was a big farm, a gigantic corporation to farm on these lands for the benefit of the people, not the benefit of the people alone. Now, for the benefit of the territory that was entrusted to the UK as an administrative unit. So they created the CDC using part of all of these lands that the Germans had taken away from the people. And then CDC would subsequently expand. Remember that this land, the lands were not very many. The rare owners were identifiable. They were not very big. They were essentially based in Boya. But when the Bakwari started making their claims, they didn't say the Boya people's land. They didn't say the Moloko people's land. They simply described it as Bakwari. And if you live in Fako, Bakwari is not just in Boya. It's a very large area. Some of them are found in Bomboko, far away inside Bafia there, but they're also called Bakwaris. So, but the people who initiated this claim wanted the benefit to come to the Bakwari people, to the people, not to individuals. And that's why they call it the Bakwari Lands Claim Committee. And when the British administration decided that let us create a corporation to do this, that will save the public interest of everybody in this territory. The Bakwaris had no problem with that. They accepted that as long as the CDC was going to save the people. And it did, because the initial CDC, if you are familiar with FACO, that is a CDC school in Bota, what they call the government school in Bota today, was a CDC school. They had a school in Tico, what they call Upper Costain, was a CDC school, and many others. They had hospitals. What they call Bota Annex Hospital, government today, was a CDC hospital. It saved everybody. There was one in Tico, it saved everybody. So it was saving the public. They got money from there to sponsor schools. Among them, the first government school in Bamenda. They subsidized the school there. The first government school in Mamfe. They subsidized the school there. And so it was saving the public interest. So the Bakwaris had no problem with that. Because their own children were going to the same school. When they were sick, they went to the same hospitals. And there was no problem with that. Until, before even then, the government recognizes all along that these were private lands after the Germans left. And their first recognition of it came in 1974. That was the first time they had a land ordinance that government that purported to show the management of land in Cameroon in general. And they classified which was private land and which was public land. Those lands that were taken from the Germans were classified private lands in Ordinance 74 of 6 July 1974, Article 2. But they didn't say private lands that belong to who. But it's understood. These were Bakwari lands, they belonged to the Bakwarians. Those were their lands. And so they classify it there for the matter to rest that it is not public land, that is not government land, it was private land, as identified by the government, as initiated by the people themselves. So in 1974, they did this. And so the CDC was going on in 1974, it had been going on since 1948. Then suddenly came 1994, where in a decree 125 of 1994, the government indicated their intention to privatize a lot of government companies, including the CDC. What does privatization mean? Privatization mean it meant that they could sell these lands, or some of these lands, to individuals. When you acquire it as an individual, it becomes your private property. The Bakwari original owners cannot lay claim to it. As your private property, it can be your house there. You can do whatever thing you wish on it. And so the Bakwaris came out and said, look, we cannot accept this. If you have to give this land to private individuals, we require compensation or restitution of our land. That is when Majority Tumbe came in. They now transformed the BLC, which was the Bakweri Land Committee, to BLCC, the Bakweri Lands Commission, which started taking actions to make sure that the lands came back to them. What were they looking for? They were not actually looking for the physical land, I think. They were looking for the benefit that would accrue from the usage of this land to go to the Bakweri people, the descendants. By 1994, most of the people who gave the lands in the 1884 were already dead, but they had children, they had descendants. I'm sure they were trying to do something like warfare in the United States. We talk about the Indian land claims, native Indians, where they have this property that was seized from them. But the native Indians of today in America enjoy privileges. You go to school without paying. You can go to universities without pay. You can go to hospitals. That is compensation of the native Indians who were here. That's what the Bakri envisaged. And then they will not let them do that. You understand now? You have no right to that claim. And they fought them everywhere they went. They ended up at the court, African Union Commission for Human and People's Rights, in Communication 260 of 2002, when the action was brought there. The Bakweri Land Commission brought the action there to force government compensate them or reinstate them their lands. And the matter took off there and went on and went on and went on. They were succeeding, but they came to the last point, which required that for you to institute a claim like that in the African Commission, you must first of all exhaust local remedies in your country. The local remedies in Cameroon included, for example, petitioning the DO, petitioning the prefect, and all those sort of things, which everyone knew that was not going to work. But they didn't do that. So the court wrote that, well, you have made this case up to this point, but you have not exhausted the procedure in order to engage this court here. And so probably you can go back and start it, exhaust this procedure, and then come back and we'll handle the matter to the end. And that is where the matter stood in 2002. That's where it stands today. But what has happened in between is what is important. Once they wrote that they could not continue with the matter, the government that was actively defending the matter said, now we won the case. And so we can manage the lands in our own way to please the natives. In order to please the natives in their own way, that is the Yaoundé way, they decided, okay, we'll cut portions of land here. This plantation in Moliko, this one in wherever, and give it to the natives. But who are the natives they are going to give the land to? They didn't know them. In order to give it to the natives, they had to create chiefs. They don't know them. They created a chief and give it the name of a quarter. Yeah, the quarter head, call him Mola Wanja Wanja or Mola whoever, and we'll call your cartier A. You're entitled to 20 acres of land. And they negotiate with you. You are the chief. If we have to give you 20 acres of CDC land, well, you will give us 10 of these 20. Us, who are these us? Who are these us that they are talking here? The us here is the administration, the dues, the senior dues, and then the prefects or whatever they call it, and the governors. And so what is the problem there? The overbearing of the administration on land. And they did that. That's why today we have what we call land grabbing in Fako, most particularly in Boya, Victoria, perhaps Tico. Once they gave you 20 acres of land and took 10 for themselves, what did they do with it? The government is not going to be building a store building on 10 acres of land. They sold it out to people. Their people first, and anybody who could buy. And they took the money. Some of the administrations are dead. Some of them have been transferred. And the battle continues over land. Can we recover all those lands in the way they were? I doubt. It will be quite difficult, but that is where it is. Because they didn't take the bill. If they were doing something there, something can be easily identifiable and done. Most of the land, this is 1994, have changed titles more than 10 times. You bought it from the Dio or whoever it was at the time. You have left and come to the United States. By the time you come to the United States, you sold it to somebody else. And so it has changed as many more times. And apparently, in an attempt to, 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 to defeat the idea of the Bakwere right to own the land. Could it have been done better? Yes. Can we do something tomorrow? I've said land is a natural resource that touches on everybody's lives. And I will end this one by giving this example. A few weeks ago, we saw the flooding in Boya. Warehouses were simply wiped away. Why? Because they were built on water channels, on water paths. What did the government do? When I say the government, I mean the DO, the governor, and so on. They came to wash their own weakness. They were blaming the people for building there. But they didn't just build, they built with permit from the council. They were permitted to build in the valleys. But that's not even the most important thing. The most important thing is you saw what the mayor was doing. What did the mayor do? He brought caterpillars to bulldoze the houses that were still standing down because they were on a water path. Yes, he thought I was doing a good job. But was that a good job? Certainly not. What could have been done better? Those rains come once in 10 years, once in 20 years. The rains have fallen now in March. They're not coming back next month. They're not even coming back next year. A proper management of those lands would have simply been to relocate these people in these valleys to a safer area. See in Fako, maybe coming up out of the CDC land in Tico or in Moyoka and say, well, you people can settle here, it is safer. And the people will quietly move there, rebuild there. Not destroying houses that have been put with the consent, express or tacit, of the government. The government itself cannot go on destroying the same houses. If the people build the houses in those valleys without building permits, it was the weakness of the council. They were not doing their job. If they build it with the consent of the council by approving their land, their building plans, well, it was their fault. And so instead of destroying those things, it has said, okay, we'll relocate you to Tole, which was essentially a CDC plantation anyway, where you will be away from the water path. That would have been a better way. Would the Bakoni people have fought against such a plan? Never, because that was public utility. And so that is the Bakoni land graft. That's land graft in
Wow.
general, and Bakoni land graft in particular in Fako. Again, in Boya, Victoria, and perhaps Tico. Thank you.
Wow. That is history, geography, chemistry, and civics put together. That is so explicit. And from what I'm hearing, the privileges that we're supposed to have been having in Boya, as concerning, especially the Bakweri people, as concerning the land that the Native Americans are having. Of course, I wouldn't say La Republic has done, because everything they have come to do with us is wicked and is ill. So I wouldn't even comment on that. So we'll go ahead and then hand over to Barrister Fru, and I will ask, how will the Ambazonia government handle Ambazonians who are not supporting the struggle but are busy grabbing land? Some of them, they backdate the purchases of the land that they have grabbed. So how are we going to do to handle such? Over to you, Barrister Fro. The microphone is
Thank you
yours.
thank you very much, Pastor Commando. It will not be prudent for us to start determining what we do with those who do not agree with our independent quest. to the extent of affecting their citizenship. No. When this government will have, when we would have obtained our sovereignty, the first thing we will do is to draft the constitution and then followed by the laws. And one of the most important laws are the Citizenship Law and the Land Tenures Act. Since we're talking about land grabbing, I will only treat the Land Tenures Act that I think we will be addressing when we get to Boya immediately after the constitution has been voted and the various government structures have been put together. I will be talking about what will happen, how the Land Tenures Act will look like. When Barrister Nde, who is now a coup plotter, when he sent me a certain document concerning how the Land Tenures Act will look like, I looked at it. I was still in Douala. I looked at it and I filed it in my library, which I don't have here. But I still remember the first thing that we'll do is to create a Land Tenures Act, which will essentially be, we'll go back to the English law and use what the English call certificate of occupancy for acquisition of lands. Every native, every village in Ambazonia, they have their lands. A group of people have their land. That's what I would call native lands. They will be the first people to be given certificate of occupancy, because everybody knows that this land belongs to this family, this land belongs to this group of people, this land belongs to this village, and so on. We will give the natives the global certificate of occupancy for their lands as natives all over, excepting government land. What La Republic calls government land on which the old land certificate will automatically be reverted to the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, and a certificate of occupancy will be issued in that effect. We will have to decentralize this question of land back to the natives, back to the owners of land. So when whoever has acquired land in Fako, you don't have to come to the lands and survey until you have been given another certificate, a temporary certificate of occupancy for you to come and get a certificate of occupancy. Who will give you that temporary? The natives that have that land, they recognize that they sold the land to you. They recognize that you paid them a fair amount of money on that land. Then they will give you a temporary certificate of occupancy, which is not a legal document, but it will allow you to come to the lands on survey, and you will obtain, if you acquire it genuinely, you will obtain a certificate of occupancy. Before you do that, that's where the citizenship law comes in. Nobody other than the citizen of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia should be given certificate of occupancy without following the citizenship law. You could be a foreigner in Ambazonia, but if you have acquired citizenship based on the law that we'll put down together, we'll now look at whether you can get that land. For citizens, there will be a separate provision in that act treating with citizens, because we have in Fako, all of Fako has been taken by francophones, by La République du Cameroon, by grabbing, by doing this and that, by SDOs, governors. They just take and a friend of mine just called me and said he passed through Tico, and I tell you, Chico has been expanded. You don't even know where the airport is. People are built all over, and most of them are francophones. So we will start by giving certificate of occupancy to the original, to the natives of the large piece of land that exists, and it's the native that will give you what I call temporary certificate of occupancy, which is not a legal document. It's one of the documents that will be required for you to bring it to the lands and survey department of the lands ministry of Amazonia, and they will look at it and they locate the original owner, which are the native. The native now will send their chief or whoever they'll send and will authenticate that land if you are an Ambazonia. But if you were a foreigner, we will have to put it under the special provision of acquiring land by foreigners. And you know that we will also put into the law what exists in every government in the world that I know. You know, government can look at a particular piece of land for government services that will serve everybody, and they want to acquire it. The power of eminent domain rests with the government. They will now look at that land and say, look, listen, this land, we're going to acquire it for so and so structure, but we will first of all evaluate how much you have spent, how much you have put in, and the government will now negotiate with the original natives and the owners of that particular piece of land to acquire, to do to implement the power of eminent domain by seizing that land and compensating you. So, Pastor Commando, we will not make any difference whether you support the struggle or not. We will not make any difference as to your citizenship of Amazonia. Every country has the opposition for everything. Let nobody think that we will now put a hammer on their head just because they have been talking about federation or centralization with La Republique. No, sir. You are an Ambazonian. The only thing you have to prove is that you were born in Ambazonia, and that is why the citizenship law will come before the Land Tenures Act, so that we know that you are a citizen. We know that it's your birthright, and that you can acquire a land under this issue of certificate of occupancy. That is where you will not be able to meet the provisions. That is, for how long have you been occupying this land continuously? That will be discussed in the text itself. So I cannot sit here and pretend to know the text that we're working on until all of us, the lawyers, will meet and then draft those various laws and debate them. That is
Thank
the
you
way.
very much.
That is the way I have envisaged based on what Baristande had put Baristande and his team then at that time had been reflecting and putting points, and they sent me this when I was still in the dungeon
La Republic.
in La Republique. So
Yes. Thank you very much, Barrister. I
I'll
think
have to
that
end there.
sounds.
If anybody has anything to add or subtract, we will go on from there.
Yeah, that sounds very, very perfect and looking very straight. I'm sure that the Democratic Society of Ambazonia in time past is very much envisaged. Just in what you people are talking to us, I'm sure that if the young men who are lavishing and dying on the highway to America in the Red Sea and the forest in America, in Brazil, if they hear this loud sounding, educative, and plan of the government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, some of them will sit up and join in this fight so we can go back and implement Thank you very much. We will want to ask if somebody has something to add when we have finished with
Of
what
course,
we
I
want
have
to do
something to
now.
add. Yeah, I
No,
do have
Ma,
something to
now it's your turn. Now, your turn, Ma. So it's your turn now. And the
Okay.
question we are putting forward to you, you may add something to what Barrister Fru has said, but this is what you have to tell the Ambazonians. How is La Republic using land grabbing to prolong the war in which they are hammering on us? So over to you, Ma Emma. It's your chance now to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Commando. I just wanted to add to what my two co-panelists have already talked about, which is what is really happening. I'm very happy to hear that there's a Land Tenure Act already, as Barrister Fru mentioned. Yeah, the thing is that first of all, this Amazonian struggle is totally tied with the land grabbing process that is going on in Amazonia. And I still go back to say it is not only in FACO, although FACO has a very unique history on this, because this problem started way back in the 1940s with the Germans. But I think some of these plantations with the Germans even extended to other parts of Amazonia, but that's a discussion for another day. Yeah, what I was going to say is that this land grabbing, it's just the same thing or it just reflects our struggle, because we are fighting for our territory. We are fighting to keep our territory, and this land, this territory, the land is in our territory, and that is all we have. La Republique is coming now to grab this land, to make money from it, steal money from our land, come back, and then use that money to pay hungry people who are starved because they are oppressed. And they are using our own money now to give it back to us and to take our land. But the whole land tenure thing had to be revamped, and I'm glad what Barrister Fru has said is exactly what I think will work for this new government. First of all, it has to be constitutionally approved, and then it has to be a law that is for the whole country. Once it is in the constitution, we know that it is for everybody. It is a law that will be respected and that will be enacted. Yes. And then you said I should comment on how La République is using land grabbing to fight against our struggle and to continue holding us in oppression. Yes. Now, first of all, the people who are conducting this land grabbing, as we have seen, is the SDOs, who are La République agents, because they are not voted by the people, they are not appointed by the people. Even the mayors, they are not put there by the people. They are appointed, they are sent from La République. So the SDO is there to hold us, to continue the oppression, to continue with all the rules and everything that La République tells them what to do. If they tell them that, look, go and round up, go do kale kale in the village of Mukunda, as they did a few months ago, they just go and they do, and they arrest anybody that they can, lock them up. Some disappear, some are taken away and killed and thrown in mass graves. It is all tied together. It is all tied together. They use this land grabbing to oppress the people, to take their last confidence. Because look, for example, the land, that is where your placenta is buried. That is all you have. That is where you were born. That is where you grew up. That's where your parents live. This is what God gave you. It is your God-given right, your land, your space in this world where you live. That is all you have. Now, if somebody leaves their own space and comes to your own space and takes what you have, what does that leave you with? It leaves you homeless. And then you lose your core, which is where your placenta was buried. You lose your balance. You become a refugee in your own country. Now, what do they come there, take your own land? No matter how much they give you, they can never pay you enough for your land. No, you can never. Land is not for sale. They can come in and give you some money to use your land so that they can produce whatever they want to produce, grow crops, because you are not using that land at the time. But that the ownership can never be moved. You cannot come from another place and then own a land in somebody else's place. It cannot be done. It has to be rented or leased. I'm hoping that is one of the things that will be in the land tenure, that land cannot be sold. You cannot sell a piece of land. No, you can always lease it so that your children will have something to go back to at the end of the lease. So all this is going to take a lot of education for our people. We have to educate our people, let them know that no matter how much is offered to them, when you lose your land, you lose your balance, you lose your core, you become homeless, you become a refugee in your own land. That is why you see our young men struggling and living and going all over the world, endangering their lives, drowning in the sea, because they have lost their core. First of all, they don't have jobs. They don't have jobs to make money, to build houses, to take care of their families. So they have to look elsewhere. And then their parents are tempted to sell their land to make money to send these children. It is such a bad cycle that has to be broken. And it is tied to this struggle. At the end of this struggle, all those things have to be righted. All those wrongs have to be righted. I remember the case in Rivers State in Nigeria, because I was there at the time, when they were creating states. The Igbo people had already built their houses in Rivers State. A lot of them lived in Rivers State, but they had their own states. So when these states were created, they had to leave and go back to their own states. And first of all, they could not take the houses. If you can take the house that you built, take the house and go with it. But you cannot take the land. This land now belonged to the Rivers people who had been displaced. So they now came back and claimed their land. And so it is always advisable for people to go back and build in their own land, build in their own places. Stop going to grab land from the people of other territories. The citizenship thing is going to be it is going to be complicated. But even as citizens, if you are not from that area, if you are not somebody from Ambazonia, born and bred, you are just coming there to live there as a citizen, you now acquire citizenship. You cannot now own land. You can lease. You can live on the land to make a life for yourself. But what you own is in your own territory where you came from. So you see that this whole thing is tied up together with this struggle. And until we have a good government, a good constitution, and a law-abiding country which respects the law and the human rights, I don't think this problem will be solved. I don't know what the rest of my panel thinks. That is how I think La République is oppressing us, and they are using this on us. Thank you, Commando.
Thank you very much, Maima. I think the positivity with which uh, you, our elderly statesmen, are putting forward is like an indicator to me that you experience the lifestyle and the governance of our forefathers, because some of the youth of today, they are just getting it by intuition because blood is thicker than water. And all that you are saying about this land issue when we get back home is very, very positive and very, very encouraging. Well, our time is almost up, but I will give opportunity now for us to make a summary of what we can say, and then at the same time, giving your concluding statements. Let's go with Barrister Fru first, and
Yes,
then we'll end
yes,
up
sir.
with Ma Emma.
Yes, sir. Let me address the issue of renting, of signing a lease on a piece of land. Ambazonians are equal and they are on their land from Victoria to Cambe. So the certificate of occupancy is meant for the citizens, born citizens, or those who have acquired citizenship. You cannot differentiate acquired citizenship from citizenship. Number two, if you're a foreigner and you come in and you want land in our territory, anywhere in our territory, first, there are two ways to acquire. One is renting. You rent for about 25 years, and when that lease is finishes, you leave, and all what is on it reverts to the principal owner of certificate of occupancy. Number two, if you are a foreigner, you want to acquire land, and you are a company, you will rent from the government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, and you put your company structures and operate as a company, because we would like to encourage commercial activities. I would like to build the economy. So all investors should know that they can come and they will get land to exploit to do their business. So, we cannot differentiate the types of citizenship. Citizenship is citizenship. If anybody has acquired citizenship based on what we put down as the citizenship law, we cannot impose upon them the duty to rent land before they own it. No, they will acquire what we call certificate of occupancy. Those who are on the land now, the natives who on whose land they are sitting, their leader is the one to give a temporary certificate of occupancy for that person to be given certificate of occupancy, as long as that person is an Ambazonian. So we cannot make laws that will discriminate against our citizens just because he acquired citizenship or he is not from the area where he wants to settle. No, citizenship is citizenship, and everybody is entitled to a piece of Amazonia wherever he or she settles. And to conclude this debate, Reverend Commando, I want to say that that law does not exist yet. That law it will be worked on when we
Still in the
will
making.
resume work. Yes, it's in the making. When all the lawyers will resume work, when we would have known that tomorrow we are in Boya, we will first of all, we are not the ones to do the constitution. It's a constituent assembly, and then the laws that will go to Parliament for vote will be Land Tenures Act, Citizenship Law, and so on. All the laws, and they must meet the constitutional provision as adopted by the Constituent Assembly. Thank you very much for inviting me, Reverend.
Thank you very much, Barrister. That's very plausible. Barrister Tim, over to you.
Thank you once more. I will address two issues. First, you asked Mindele how the land issue is affecting the war. I want us to be reminded that if the land issue had not been there, the war would not be where it is right now. And I give this example. One of the things that the Republic is fighting and hanging on us, the most popular thing that everybody knows is the ability to own and manage Sonara. That's the money producing mineral that we have. And so they are fighting to own that thing. It is located somewhere. And in the 1970s, when they discovered oil, gas, that was going to be a refinery in Victoria, a certain Musa Yaya, who was the Speaker of the National Assembly, he came from Garua. He quickly rushed to that area where the Sonora thing is built and took almost acres upon acres of land for himself because he knew that the value of the land around Sonora, a square meter there is 10 times, 50 times, 100 times more than what you have in Boya, talk less of what you have in Bamenda. This is an Hausa man. He had never been to Victoria. And so he took that land, he has sold it to his friends, to whoever. They're hanging on to it and fighting the war against us. Back to what Barasanso said. I had said in my introduction that land is the natural resource of the people, and it touches on the lives of every single citizen. Because it is a natural resource, the future government of Amazonia, I would recommend, will have a land management law, call it whatever name you give it, that would specifically say that all Amazonian land primarily belongs to the Amazonian state, not to the government. It belongs to the Amazonian state.
Yeah.
Any other users, nobody on the land, natives, strangers, they are only users. And that is what Barasanso calls certificate of occupancy. You're just occupying the land. In other words, should they be in need for the state of Amazonia to use your land for anything, they will use it. You'll be compensated based on your usage of the land. Let me say, for example, if you are trying to dig the ring road, it cuts across several communities. People live there. People's houses will be destroyed. Are they just going to walk away empty-handed because it's a ring road? No. They have to be compensated for letting the road pass through their compounds. But the compensation is not going to be the same. A man, for example, who had put up a story building somewhere where the road will pass is going to receive more than somebody else who is just sitting there planting plantains or cocoa yams. That's the right of usage. He will be compensated based on what he or she was using the land for. That law should adequately address all those things, which for now, we don't know what the law will be. But those should be some of the guidelines. The land as a natural resource. If they want to be, in fact, I said this last time when we were here, we go to every single city in Amazonia. Let us take Boya. You find the governor's office, you find the district office, you find the hospital, they are located on people's lands. Those lands were owned by individuals. But for public use, for people of putting on office, they took them, the government took it and built offices there. If your house was there and you need to be moved, you need to move it somewhere else or give you money to move to any other place of your convenience. That same principle should apply. If tomorrow they wanted to create, say, a university in Idebato, people are living there. You come there and map out the land that you want to do for your university in Idebato or wherever it is. And then the people who are using that land will be compensated in cash or by giving them alternative places where to go and settle. And if you give the alternative place to go and settle, you have to give them the capital to start wherever they are going. Those things should be addressed by the future land management law of Amazonia. That nobody is going to take advantage of it as it's going on now. The problem that we have now is the administration put up by Yaoundé has an over extraordinary weight on how land is used, how people are dispossessed of land, and so on and so forth. A duo, that's why you find in Douala, for example, you go to Douala, this duo comes and assigns a piece of land to you, the next one comes and assigns the same piece of land to you, because there's no control over it. That's why even today in Cameroon, we have what they call the Land Consultative Board, which is supposed to be a matter of experts. In that Land Consultative Board, there's a representative of the traditional community. But what is his weight there? His representation has no meaning. There are about 6 people there. That poor man or woman representing the village does not even have a veto right. The duo with the chairman can say this is the decision, and the poor villager cannot do anything. Yeah, you are sitting there, but your influence is almost zero. Those things have to be redressed. If the village must be represented, they must be heard. That look, where you're trying to dig this road through is a shrine of the village. This shrine is important to us. You don't just come and destroy it because the DO has signed an order asking you to do it. Again, all those fine details will be addressed by the Ambazonian Land Management Board, or whatever thing you call it, as specified in our future constitution. Again, thank you for giving us this opportunity. We only hope that we will live long enough to see ourselves in Buea, to see ourselves giving some of these practical suggestions for a better Ambazonia in terms of land management. Again, thank you very much for receiving us. Followers, thank you for following us. And then who have learned something from us for the future and for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my barristers. It's not yet time to go. Let's listen to Ma, who is with us here. And then after that, I have a question that I will ask from the all of you who are in the panel, because you are wise men and women. Over to you, Mindele. The microphone is yours for your
Thank
remarks
you.
and conclusion.
Thank you, Pastor Commando. It's been a very, very interesting and I think very educative discussion. I first of all want to, Barrister Mbesia and John Fru, they are a trove of knowledge. They're a wealth of knowledge. They have it on them, and I am just learning the history of my people within the last 7 years. That I joined this struggle in 2019. So I have learned so much about my history, which I did not learn in school. I did not learn anywhere. I've lived. I mean, quite a few years, and a lot of this I'm learning, especially this history of the land and the effect it has on the Bakuri people. It is a very, very, very important thing that has been left out of our lives, because the history of a people, like this land thing that started with the Germans, it affected the psyche of the Bakuri people, or the Fako people, or Ambazonians all over where this happened. The land affected the psyche and our interactions today, even among ourselves. So these things really have to be addressed. Now, the other thing that I know that has to be worked out when we have our country and when we have a constitution, is that we have to be very, very aware of town planning. Now, for example, that incident that happened 2 weeks ago, the floods, all the water that came from the mountain and carried houses and killed people because people had been building in the water channels. All this is because Buea is not a well-planned city. I don't think any city in Amazonia is well-planned, and Cameroon is not. La République is not. They are not used to. They don't even know what it means to do town planning, because look at Douala. Douala is a mess. It has, that city is like a ticking time bomb for a lot of things. There's flood, they have flood, and they are very lucky that they are a bit far away from Mount Fako, which is a volcanic mountain. But we need to focus on town planning. Whatever we are doing, this will come with the land tenure and putting into practice a good land tenure act and whatever plans that will be. But I think that we should think of town planning. The other thing will be making the people know and identifying the government lands and the native lands. Right now there's so much confusion because, for example, I remember the GRA, the GRA lands in Boya. That used to be a government residential area. But these La Republique agents have sold pieces of those lands. People have built there. So now you cannot tell which one is government land or government property and which one is private property. That has to be very clear. And all this will come with a lot of education for our people. Our people have to be educated. First of all, they have to know that selling their lands it's not good for them. They are robbing themselves of their balance, their core, and their home, and the only thing that God has given them, which is their rights. So those, that is what I would end this part with my recommendation: town planning and identifying government and native lands, and we'll go from there. We'll go from there, as long as also we control the ownership. We know that the natives are taken care of. Then those who are coming in and applying for citizenship, they too will be taken care of, but not at the expense of those who own the land, who are born there, who are the original occupiers of that land. I think when we start taking care of the
Thank you.
people, then we'll be doing the right thing. Thank you, Commando.
Thank you very much, Maima, for that intervention there. You just mentioned something which is very striking, the disorderliness of La Republique du Cameroon. Before 1960, if you get into clerk's quarters, you will have house number this and
Mm-hmm.
street number this. Like we have street 1, street 2 in Tico. Everything was orderly, like we
Yes.
have in Nigeria. You cannot get to Nigeria, you get missing where you have the home address of the person, the street number, the town where the person is staying, and of course the street and the house number. You just walk down there. But if you get into our own hometown today, which was having similar planning, you'll find out that when these people came in with their confusion and disorderliness, they just ramshackle everything and put it aside. Now we just talk about the waters that carried away some property and people in Boya. And then I overheard, I think it was Barrister Mbesa or Barrister Fru who was saying that the town planning and the mayors and so on, they have town planning, how do you call it, the certificate of construction or whatever name they call it. The question I wanted to ask my two barristers is we have been with these Monroons. I mean, sorry, let me let me not insult them plenty, but that's who they are. The La Republique du Cameroon. So disorder, and many of us Ambazonians have copied these their pernicious ways. And I want to find out from the two barristers, this may transcend just the land issue, but also in matters of discipline, because I know that there is discipline and there is punishment. What method will Ambazonia adopt to make sure that they bring back all the Ambazonians to what they were in terms of discipline before these people took over our land? And I see that as soon as an Ambazonian or even a La Republican, once they cross over and enter into America, they immediately become very sane. The crazy things that they do back at home and go away with, they can't try it over there. So I want to find out, how do we intend to put in discipline or punishment? What are the difference between discipline and punishment to have our people bow to the rules and the laws that are going to be in place?
Uh,
Okay, Barrister Fru, go ahead.
yes, Pastor Commando, the ethics committee is already doing a lot in that area of discipline. And then, of course, the various laws that will be passed in our country will spell out the modalities for punishment. I want to say that the Department of Town Planning will do, when you get your certificate of occupancy, that doesn't mean that you should just go and build. Before you build, you go to the Town Planning Ministry, and they will send technicians to ensure that you are respecting the town planning of the area in which you want to build. They will not allow you build on waterways. They will not allow you build just anyhow. We will now restructure our streets and name them, so that when a child in America writes a letter, it puts your street address, it comes straight to your house.
Yep.
That is what exists in Nigeria. That is what exists in Uganda. That's what exists in Kenya and in Ghana. All the English-speaking countries, they have addresses on their streets that you write a letter and the letter gets there. So they will. That's a very important job of the town planning ministry, that you brought up. That was a very good point. And we cannot allow any more indiscipline in the construction of our cities. Our cities, first of all, must be planned, and then when you come you want to build, you go and get a certificate, what you call permission to build,
Building permit.
building permit, or whatever you call it. I don't want to use a lot of public terms. You get it from planning ministry. It should not take a long time to give you, because they have a general. Every department in every town has a general outlay of the town, planned street by street and named street by street, so that where you build, they ensure that you respect the provisions of the planning of that particular city. Simple. But for this question of discipline, Pastor Commando, this is what the ethics committee has been doing, and it's a very good job that the ethics committee has been doing for a very long time. It will instill into our people discipline, because if you are not disciplined, the law will discipline you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Barrister Tim.
Let me say this. Mr. Joe, is he talking?
No, he has finished.
I'll finish, sir.
Okay. Let me say this. You see, my brought the idea of town planning. I may I use this opportunity to remind ourselves that Buya, for example, Tico, Victoria, and Muyuka, that existed well before 1961, were adequately planned.
Correct.
And so two other towns. In West Cameroon, at the time, we could only talk about Kumba. We could talk about Manfe, Bamenda, and Kambe, Wum. All these major towns had careful planning. Streets were where they're supposed to be. Now let me bring you back to Buea again. If you are familiar with Buea, if you go to Buea right now, as you drive up to Buea town, you pass the governor's office before you get to the provincial secondary school. Below, to the left, is a big valley, a deep valley. Nobody was supposed to be there. But what happened? Oben Peter Ashu became the governor and put his house right inside that valley there. I don't know whether he knew the risk he was taking, or was just doing it for the sake of being a governor. But he did it. I'm not sure whether how survived this flood because I saw the professor secondary school and the Senate office almost gone. But what did he do? It doesn't mean important in here. Why did he do it? It goes to who is in control of our cities. There will be no discipline in the cities anywhere else until there's somebody to enforce it. The city, in principle, is supposed to be the city of the mayor. But who is the mayor in Boya who will stop the governor from being in the valley? You don't have the power to. Who is the governor in Boya, the mayor in Boya? Who will stop Mosenge, the former prime minister, from putting his house on the road? The mayor is toothless. And so we don't have people who have institutions that have no meaning. A mayor today in Ambazonia, like somewhere else in East Cameroon, is zero. It has no meaning. Absolutely no meaning. Because let's take Victoria. Victoria is not a big town. You have Victoria 1, Victoria 2, Victoria 3. These are all councils there. And then they have a super mayor. So who is controlling who? Who is going to enforce the laws? So for there to be disciplined, there must be somebody in central control who can say, look, I've not authorized you to build a house here. If you're building a house, we'll demolish it. He has the power to demolish a house. But this is totally absent. It's completely chaotic. You have, again in Victoria, or Bamenda, you have something called Bamenda 1, Bamenda 2, Bamenda 3, Bamenda 4, Bamenda 5, whatever you call it. Who are these heads of this Bamenda or Boya or Douala, whatever thing? Who are the heads? They are the duos. And in each of those places, there is a council. And each of those duos, they have a super duo called the prefect in town. And another super one called the governor. Each of them is appointed by presidential decree. The mayor of Kumba 1
Confusion.
or Bamenda 2 does not owe an allegiance to dictate from the governor. He has the same decree that appointed him from the presidency in Yaoundé. So there's total chaos in the whole thing. If you want to respect these things, we have to empower the institutions that enforce them. I live here in the United States. New York is one of the largest cities we have here. California, Dallas, Washington, D.C. I've never heard about Washington, D.C. 1. New York 2, 3, 4, 5. There's one mayor in New York. And if you stamp his feet down now, you're not putting it out here, you will go. Even if it is President Biden. We have seen the mayor, the district attorney of New York bringing the former president to court because he has the power. Who is a mayor? Who is a state council in Boya who will bring a sous-prefect to court? He will fire the next day. So we have to empower our future Ambazonia has to give powers to where it belongs for it to be effective. As I said, the mayor of Boya pulling down those houses, he had no other option. He could not even say, okay, let me relocate this population from this dangerous spot to this safer spot. He doesn't have even the power. How is he going to do it? So they are toothless. Even though they wear those things on their body and run and call themselves mayors, they are useless people. It's an institution that has no more meaning. Our institutions in West Cameroon must be institutions. And so, again, in summary, and for the future, I hope we are on the right track. Ambazonia is putting up the right structures. If you're a mayor, you're a mayor. If you're a police commissioner, you're a police commissioner. If you commit a crime, the police will come and look for you. The police will not invite you to come and put yourself in prison, send you a convocation to come and be locked up. What is the role of the police? For you to take yourself to jail? It doesn't happen like that. So there's a police commissioner in town. You know what you do? When we were in primary school, we used to learn that there was a certain man called the commissioner of police for West Cameroon at the time. He was called Ntune. We didn't even know him. But we learned it as a civic lesson because there was only one commissioner of police in the whole of Boya. And then I had him, they mentioned his name in primary school. Oh, the commissioner of police for Cameroon is Mr. That's all. So our institutions will have meaning. They will be empowered by our constitution to perform the job. If there's a flood coming to town, the mayor should be able to say, let us direct it this way. And you will be bound to accept. Again, back to the land that we're talking about. Land is a natural resource. The government of, you have talked about crafts quarters, federal quarters. They were created by us. Houses were put there by us. Numbers were put on those houses by the government. What happens to it? They created another government residential area in Boyede in Sopo in 1970s. When they took over the whole thing, there was a Beregan depot of building houses there. And the governor is sitting there. The mayor is sitting there. They cannot even stop somebody from burying someone where he's not supposed to bury. And so our institutions will have meaning. I think they would have. As long as we are the citizens, we are the ones talking, we are the ones to respect those laws. And so I can tell the population, rest in confidence. A government is as strong as you make it. It's as chaotic as you want it to be. And we will be strong, we're not going to be chaotic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, lady and gentlemen. The Tory don't sweet plenty, but our time is short. We'll have to stop here so far, and we'll need to continue maybe when the ethics chair will bring us back on board. Thank you very much for your contributions. It is at this juncture that we call it quit for today, and have a wonderful weekend. But don't forget, tomorrow is federal draft, and the Atlantic Zone is hosting the draft. And remember that Atlantic Zone hosts our federal capital. So you are specially invited not to miss this wonderful occasion to push Ambazonia forward and make a difference amongst the French people who are so disorganized that what the lawyers and our big sister has said in this program is just giving me goosebumps to start jumping to Ambazonia now. But I can't go there until I land in Tico, and I hear that they have taken over Tico Airport by building houses. When they shall be destroyed and our airport is put, that's when I get back to that place. I don't want to pass through La Republique. Anyway, for
Yeah,
that,
just a second, Commando.
Okay,
I just wanted
go
to
ahead.
invite everybody to the Atlantic draft. As Commando said, federal capital is your capital. So this draft is for everybody. It's for the whole of Ambazonia because that is your capital. Whatever happens in Boya shakes the whole of Ambazonia because Boya is part of Ambazonia. Everybody has a piece of Boya. Everybody has a piece of Fako. And this is the Atlantic draft. This is the core of Ambazonia. The day we are going to take control of Fako, we know we have Ambazonia in our hands. So come one, come all. You are highly invited. We are going to have kwakoko and banga soup waiting for you guys. Come on over.
Thank you very much. And goodbye for now.
From the savannah to the Midland and the Atlantic, Ambazonia has risen to fall no more. Ambazonia rise.
Dear Ambazonians on the home front and diaspora.
Dear Ambazonia freedom fighters in the home front and in the diaspora.
The Ethics Commission of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is coming out to alert you that it is becoming more and more evident that the former British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonians, will soon emerge as the newest nation in the world.
We are calling on all of us to start preparing to receive Ambazonia as parents prepare to receive their firstborn child. Malcolm X said, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. We are already very educated, talented, and very rich in natural resources. Do all this guarantee a safe and prosperous Ambazonia? The answer is an emphatic no. Theodore Roosevelt said, to educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace in society.
Ambazonians, it is time to start planning to restore our cultural and social values that characterize us as a people of good repute. Before our Republic Canadian invasion, we were respectful of each other, of the law, and of our culture. We earned our living through honest hard work, making clean money for ourselves.
Our values helped us to maximize the benefits of our natural resources as well as our human resources. Southern Cameroons were serene and clean, simply beautiful in spirit,